We are recording if we're ready to go. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 5th Annual Government Women in Technology Summit. My name is Ann Young. I'm from the Indiana Archives and Records Administration, and I will be one of your MCs today. Our theme this year, Thriving in Tech, Resilience Reimagined, celebrates resilience, leadership, and adaptation across Indiana government.
We're so glad you're here. Before we kick off, just a few quick housekeeping notes as we get settled. Please keep yourself on mute unless speaking. Use the chat for kudos, questions, and reflections throughout. And please note that this summit is being recorded.
And today's flow includes 2 lightning talks, a pre-recorded panel, and a closing segment with upcoming meetings for the year.
And let's take a quick look at the agenda. First up, today we're going to have a lightning talk with Krista Kelly. Second, lightning talk with Marianne Cardwell, and then our panel moderated by Rachel Clark, which is a recorded panel.
All right, and next slide, please. All right, so what is GWIT? So GWIT is an Indiana-based affinity group established in 2020 to support and elevate women working in or alongside technology roles across the public sector. GWIT fosters a collaborative, inclusive environment where members can connect, learn, and grow together. The group provides networking opportunities for technology professionals and hosts monthly sessions covering a wide range of topics from emerging technologies to retirement planning to career development. Whether you're an experienced technologist or exploring the field, GWIT offers a supportive space to build skills, share insights, and strengthen professional networks.
Okay, so our first lightning talk is going to be Krista Kelly. Krista Kelly is the Chief Data Officer for the Indiana Attorney General's Office, where they lead the agency's Data in Business Process Division and oversee statewide data strategy. Krista is known for turning complex information into clear, actionable insights that strengthen public service and operational decision making. Thank you for joining us today, Krista.
Thank you for having me here. This time I'd like to share my screen for our lightning talk. I thought this background was appropriate for a conversation in thriving in tech, and especially for Resilience Reimagined. For those of you that haven't heard, Edison is famously quoted when asked about all of the time and effort he spent in developing the light bulb, that he didn't actually fail. He simply found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. And that really is turning complexity and hardship, I think, into resilience, is focusing on the good that you were able to do. So I want to talk about a project that I have been working on. This is our revenue receiving flow in our office. And the icons here have some little money symbols that represent finance and people symbols that represent our business. When we get these checks in settlements for litigation that we have won, we have to receive it, scan it, distribute the checks so that each of the areas can say, yep, that's for this settlement, that's for this settlement, that's for this settlement. It has to go here, there, or wherever. Then an initial ROC is done by finance. The business then has to go back and provide transmittals for how those checks have to be divvied up. That then is taken by finance to do another ROC that's called a zero ROC, where the money is transferred out, and all of this information has to be maintained in a cash book. The importance of those first 3 blocks is that that has to be completed within 24 hours of receiving the checks. So all the checks that we receive in one day have to be deposited, or the initial ROC completed by the morning of the next day. And part of the claiming process is to make sure that we don't receive a payment inadvertently. For example, we receive registration payments that are $5. When we receive a $5 registration payment in error, we really don't want to deposit it and then have to go through the trouble of trying to get the person's direct deposit information so that the state can reimburse them that way. A lot of people don't want to give that. So then we're stuck with this $5 deposit. It would be better to pull that $5 deposit on the front end. And so that's what the claiming piece needs to be. And this whole process was very cumbersome and clunky. All of the check images were scanned and combined into a single file. And then that data file was sent via email, which all of us know is not the best, related to privacy concerns with all of these bank accounts and check numbers and information in there. In addition, this huge document, which could be up to 80 pages, required manual adjustment for each of the different business divisions to pull out the documents that were related to their settlements. So then we had a large document that was stored in one place and all of these smaller sets of documents stored elsewhere. And what we found is that a lot of times people didn't pull out the individual files to store in our Salesforce system or individual checks. They just deleted the things that didn't apply to their section and stored the entire section's worth of data in our Salesforce system, which just increased the data that we had. Again, privacy concerns because we were exposing information about settlements that people maybe weren't a part of when that data was stored. Now, part of the benefits for moving to a new process, we knew that we had data fields that were kind of limited, right? We wanted to know the check number, the date, who it was from, and what the amount was. And we're fairly consistent-ish in their placement. We had a fairly small user group that we were sending this information to, and we had a number of free tools that were available through IoT and the state's technology already existing. Some of those were our Microsoft SharePoint, Power Apps, and Power Automate processes, as well as an AI builder that is incorporated into that Power Flow system. So we went about using AI to do the data gathering. Right now, we scan the checks and we have a very small machine learning model within the Power Automate process in our current Microsoft tenant that looks at the checks, looks at the money orders, and pulls out that small sampling of data. Who wrote the check? How much was it for? What date was it? What is the item number on it? And it stores that information in our online claiming SharePoint list. That list is then made available to one or two people within each of the different business units who can go in and claim or put their name next to that check. This is very helpful because before, when they would claim the checks, right, finance had to go back through all of the emails and look through all of the other random document attachments that people had to try to determine which checks were or were not claimed. Now it's very easy. You can filter to see what doesn't have a name next to it. We'd like to build a Power Apps interface for this so that we can continue on with the second half of the process and automating that. But one of the things that we learned is the way that we set up our document library for the checks doesn't quite lend itself to this Power Apps process. So we're considering moving to more of a Dataverse situation. Again, since this is a fairly small group, purchasing Dataverse licenses for those people wouldn't be exceptionally expensive. And I've got this in orange because this is something that is really still needs a lot of development and understanding. What are the limitations within Dataverse? Who can access it? How do we set it up? How do we make sure that we set it up so that should I ever leave the organization, the process doesn't fail but continues working? So we don't want to set it up under my license. We want to set it up under a service license. And then the last piece is the scanning software. So the software that we have right now is fairly inexpensive and requires the user to go in and update the name with every set of checks that is done, clear the system, go back in, start a new scan. We're looking to see if we can't find a more intelligent scanning process that would do some of that naming and the update information for us without having as much manual intervention. And why does this process demonstrate some resilience and some thriving in tech? Again, we were able to use technology that we already had. We didn't have to go out and buy a big system. We didn't have to go out and do a huge AI model. Does the AI model work perfectly? No, it doesn't. But it accomplishes what we needed to do, which was to get this data out of a mail system back and forth and provide an easy way to provide check tracking to know who had claimed it, if a check had been claimed, and when it had been claimed. Before our implementation, we had a really big resistance to change. People had done this process for forever. I don't know that anybody's ever heard that, right, in any kind of process. They had some skepticism about whether the process would work and a perception that it would increase the workload of some of the people. And when we sat down and really walked through the steps of the process, walked through what each person was doing each day, how many times they had to open different files or review information or chase emails back and forth, we really found that the new process reduced the workload and people have been actually very happy with it. And now that it's been implemented and working for a while, there's been kind of a clamor for a desired extending of the functionality or the automation so that the data that's collected can automatically be fed into a form to create the transmittals that need to be done, to send that back to finance, that information can be used to automatically create the Excel files that are used for the ROC, both the initial and the zero, and that the data then wherever we store it can be used as the new cash book rather than having to rekey that information into yet another spreadsheet that keeps that data for the mandated State Board of Accounts cash book. So this process isn't dead yet, right? We haven't finished it. We haven't closed it off. We have made some strides. We've fixed a problem. And I think that's one of the key things when we talk about AI and how we want to use AI is to make sure that we identify a problem first, not say, hey, we've got this AI, what could we use it for? But instead focus on, hey, we've got this problem and it's suited well towards using AI. We have some defined data, we have some defined decision processes, and we can use this AI to speed up and automate those decision processes. It won't be easy. Again, you'll run into a lot of resistance for change, but it can be done, and it can be done with the technology that we already have available within our tenant, which is very nice. So if you're interested in more information on this project, the stumbling blocks that we ran into, the things that worked well, the things that didn't, if you're interested in an exchange of ideas on how you might be able to use Power Apps, Power Automate, SharePoint, the technology that we currently have within our tenant, or what things you might want to do with AI, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear about how other people are innovating in small ways and in big ways within their agencies here at the state. So That's all I have for you today. I hope that you were able to see the benefit of using AI and our internal technology to help solve problems. And I hope that everybody can stay resilient as we work through that change management.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Krista. That was incredibly enlightening. I imagine quite a few of us can relate to the sentiments that you've shared, even if we aren't experiencing the same workflows that you are having at your agency. I would love to welcome our next lightning speaker, Marianne Cardwell. Marianne is Indiana's Geographic Information Officer with the Indiana Geographic Information Office. Marianne combines a love of maps and emerging technology to support innovative public service. She focuses on building collaborative, supportive teams where colleagues thrive and enjoy the work they do. Marianne, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yes,
All
your
right,
screen is
great.
visible.
Thank you. So today, I know we're government women in technology, so we always focus on technology a lot, but I wanted to talk about how you can make sure that not just your technology is redundant and can handle anything happening, but also that your team is redundant. And I want to give you an example based on our experience in the last year and a half for our team and all of the changes that we went through. And yet we're still able to do all of the things that we wanted to do in 2025. And while it caused a little bit of additional work for some of us or the entire team, we still managed to do everything we needed to do, despite losing quite a few folks on the team. So we started out the year on January 1, 2025 with 13 people. And this was the team at the time. And Megan Compton, our fearless GIO, had a wonderful opportunity to move to the federal government, the USGS. And so she left us, unfortunately, in early to mid-January, at the same time as also our CIO, the head of our agency here at IoT. So within a couple of weeks of the start of the year, we had lost our leader and we had lost the person that she reported to as well. And we did not have a new CIO in place until March, although we did have an acting CIO during that time. So I was really lucky that in March I was promoted to Megan's position, but that still left a hole where we needed to replace the deputy GIO, which was the role that I had. And Steve on our team was promoted to that role in June. And then after that, it kind of went downhill. I tried not to take it too personally, but we had our fantastic communications coordinator, Pam, leaving for a great opportunity with Department of Child Services at the state. And then in the fall, Caitlin, who was one of our GIS specialists on Sandeep's team, moved to Wisconsin to be closer to her family. She wanted to go back to local government. And so she left our team as well. So now we were down 3 people. And then later in the fall, closer to winter, Karen, who was our project and grant coordinator, went back to NDOT. She had a very long commute and was able to now work out of a regional office much closer to home and gained, I think, 1 or 2 hours a day in commuting time. And then earlier this year, Derek, who was on our team, also reporting to Sandeep, moved back to NDOT as well. We won't hold it against NDOT, and became the agency's GIS director. We were thrilled for our colleagues, but it kind of made for a tumultuous year. And to an extent, I think we were a little bit the victims of our success. We have a fantastic team. We really try to emphasize, learning and growing. And so folks had some great opportunities come their way. And but it did hurt us as a team. And so how did we weather those staffing changes and still accomplish everything we wanted to do? And the answer truly is that redundancy was in our team's DNA. We had really started focusing on that before any of this happened, and I'm really glad that we did. We wanted to really avoid having any single points of failure. So what I want to talk to you about today is a little bit what has worked for us in avoiding those single points of failure and ensuring redundancy within the team. So first off is you want to identify those single points of failure and have a backup person for that role or that responsibility, because not everything that one person might do might go to another person. We have some of the roles on our team are very specific to a program, and so that can make it a little tricky where we're not all supporting, one project, but we're all supporting different projects. So we really made an effort to do that and make sure that somebody else knew how the system worked or had enough information to at least get going. The other important thing that we kind of learned along the way is to use common mailboxes and emails. So we started a grant program about 1.5 years ago, and we kind of went back and forth. Do we want to have just Karen's email attached to that, or do we want to do something else? And we decided to have one email for the grants programs that we have within our office. That way, it offered several advantages. One, it wasn't tied to a single person, but two, it allowed multiple people on the team to be able to check and respond to those emails. And we have a similar one for my position. So Megan had that email before, the GIO@iot.in.gov, but now I have that email as well. And so regardless of who's in my position, we will always be able to, people will always be able to send an email to that address and reach the office and the person in my position. So those were pretty important. The other thing that we really pushed for is to not store files on your local machine or even your personal OneDrive. So we set up a team-wide SharePoint, and that is where we tried to store almost everything that was attached to the team. And that really helps because while we do have access to your personal SharePoint when you leave, we have access for a certain amount of time. We don't always know what's there, and we might come across a link to your personal SharePoint when we no longer have access to that data. So making sure that everything is in a central place that we will always have access to has really helped us as well. And everybody on the team has access to that information. We don't have to worry about renewing the access, adding somebody else on a personal file that we might have shared. We just all have access to it and we can see everything that is there. The other part is when we have a specific larger projects, and some of our projects are multiple years with no side and ends. And we created, when we're working with a vendor especially, we've created some specific SharePoint sites just for those projects. And any meetings that we set up with our vendor, we do it from that SharePoint site. So it's owned by SharePoint. It's not owned by an individual person on our team. So if that person leaves, those meetings are still there. And it avoids having these meetings on your calendar later on that you cannot change, that you have to go delete and recreate, which often causes confusion. And that's really helped us from that perspective, but also we can automatically record all of those meetings, and we all have access to those recordings. And that helped us when we had a tough situation with a vendor where they promised us some things and then didn't deliver. We were able to go back to some of those recordings and extract what specifically they said on which dates, which helped us when we were speaking to them and pointing out that they had promised this and did not come through. And then finally, we have one location for basic documentation and standard operating procedures. And the line between storing that in our SharePoint site versus this other solution can be a little gray at times, but it's something. So the website that we're using is called Confluence. And in my previous job, I was at IUPUI, and right around the start of COVID, we had access to this Confluence website. And it's basically a wiki. And my team, when I was at IUPUI, just really loved it. And we started putting all of our standard things that we did. We started documenting them in there. Things that you might only do once a year, we're documented in there because the next year you're doing it, you only remember half of it. We were able to go through and see all of that. It allows you to store code in there so that you can easily copy over. It even allows you to do things like this, which is a flow chart showing the process of a state-funded grant. So Karen had put a lot of work into documenting all of the various steps of that a grant goes through. And now that we have our new person taking over, she has access to this. She doesn't have to learn everything the hard way. And you can see on the left a little bit, that's the contents of all the documents we have. But it's truly been a lifesaver of having everything in one location. You can search for it. Multiple people can edit it. And it's saved our behinds quite a few times. And I'm happy to share that since then, we have grown our team back up, and this is the team today. So we've hired 4 new members since the beginning of this year. We are almost back to full capacity. We could probably bring in 1 more person on the team, but it's been very helpful for us to make this part of our DNA. And moving forward, we do have a goal assigned to everybody on redundancy, making sure that everything is documented and that we always have somebody else who's at least somewhat familiar with a specific task, so that if you're on vacation or you might be sick, or maybe you win the lottery, that the rest of us can still pretty easily take that over. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, and I could also put my contact information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. That was incredibly interesting. I appreciate both you and Krista joining us today for the lightning talks. Up next, we are going to have our panel discussion. But before then, if you have any questions or any kudos that you'd like to share, please add them into the chat. And or if you need contact information for either of our lightning talk speakers, we can also share that with you as well.
Before we move on to our panel discussion, I did want to give a quick shout out to the board that made the summit happen. Let's just go ahead and give just a really quick shout out to them for all the hard work that they've done to get this together today. Our panel today explores how AI is reshaping government work. This is a pre-recorded conversation. Our panel discussion features Kate Kotan, Dan Mathis, and is moderated by Rachel Clark. We'll monitor the chat for questions and reactions. Please roll the video. Thanks.
Perfect. And before I share the video, I do just want to do a quick introduction. I'm so sorry, if I could have those slides back up real quick. Just wanted to provide some additional context for our panel discussion if these individuals are employees that you are not familiar with. Rachel Clark, who is the moderator today, works for Math Tech and was formerly with the BMV and is a founding member of GWIT and the former board member. Dan Mathis is the General Counsel for the Management Performance Hub and was previously with the Indiana Office of Technology. And Kate Kotan is the Chief Digital Officer for the City of Indianapolis and Marianne County. And bear with me 1 second, I am going to share my screen so we can watch the recorded panel.
You are muted, Anne.
Can't hear you, Anne.
I'm so sorry. I realized I put up. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for correcting me there, or calling that out. I just wanted to say I hope that was as exciting and informative for all of you as it was for me. I think something that I am definitely taking away from it, or something that I want to think on. Rachel mentioned the question: is AI bringing us together or pulling us apart? And I think that's such an important thing to think about, both on a personal level and a professional level. So really taking that question away and going to kind of ponder on it for a little bit. I also want to point out one line that was said at the beginning of the board, that resilience is learning from your colleagues. And I think that really struck a chord with me. And I think that can be even extended to our community and those we interact with, especially this group, and how we move forward and utilize our resources and shared knowledge. So that was incredible. And in the chat, we do have LinkedIn profiles shared, as well as some additional links for anybody that would like to explore a little bit more. And then bear with me a second. I'm going to get our PowerPoint pulled back up so I can share a little bit more information with everybody. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to say, be sure to check out the GWIT Teams space for announcements and upcoming sessions. We do have a virtual meeting coming up on April 8th. And as you can see on the screen, we have additional dates listed out for future meetings. There are QR codes on the screen so that you are able to sign up if you have not officially joined GWIT.
We really hope that you guys have enjoyed the summit today. We've enjoyed being your MCs, and I know I loved that panel. They did a really excellent job, and thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much again to the board who put in all of this hard work and put this together. And thank you for everybody who attended. We really hope to see you guys at future GWIT meetings. We'd love to have you for both the virtual ones as well as the ones that we have in person. So I hope that you all have a really great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you so much to the GWIT board for putting this summit together so that Meredith and I could come together to be your MCs. If you have any questions, there is contact information to reach out. There's also this chat, but I hope that you all have a wonderful day and enjoyed the lightning talks and panels as much as we did.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.